Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the Sun in Libra at the anaretic last degree of Libra, making a square to Pluto in Capricorn, who is also at the anaretic last degree of Capricorn. So a kind of charged Sun-Pluto square compared to an average Sun-Pluto square. We have a debilitated Sun, an anaretic Sun. We have Pluto culminating in the last degree of Capricorn before it leaves for good. So a pretty charged up Sun-Pluto square to start the week. That is what we are going to look at today. Before we get into it, if you are new to the channel or if you have been here for a while, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. We really appreciate it. It helps us grow the channel, helps us to grow our business and community. We are trying to reach 80,000 subscribers on the channel by the spring equinox. That's our next goal. So a big thanks to everybody who has helped out in the recent goal that we made, which was 70,000 subscribers. So a big thanks for all of your support. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. And I'm going to take you over there right now for just a couple of promotions. We recently had our October webinar. So if you go to the live talks page, you will see next month's webinar is posted, Pluto and Aquarius, AI, Aliens, and New World Orders on November 21st. If you want to join that webinar, you can click there to purchase the webinar. You'll get the link to the webinar. If you cannot attend live on November 21st, you get the recording afterward. The other thing we are in the midst of promoting, of course, is the Year 1 course. Year 1 course begins on November 16th. This is Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, our first year program in Ancient Hellenistic Astrology. All of my programs include a pretty strong foundational basis in archetypal psychology and astrology as well. So that's sort of infused into everything I do. Anyway, at the bottom, you will find enrollment options are one thing that you can take advantage of is the need-based tuition. So if you are someone who would like to take the program but needs a little help because you're on a fixed budget, limited income, experiencing financial hardship in whatever way, we try to make sure that all of our courses are accessible financially for people because we believe that a sacred topic like astrology should be accessible for people in different situations. So if that could help you, please take advantage of it. We give you a sliding scale to work within for your monthly tuition. You get to determine what your budget is for that monthly tuition within the scale. So that works out nicely. We're glad to see a new group of students coming in under a really auspicious transit of Pluto into Aquarius in November. So it's a great time to start studying astrology with us. At the end of today's video, after I'm done, you'll find an informational video about the class. If you want to learn more about what the class includes, how it's all set up and structured, what you get from it, why we think it's a good program, you can listen to that informational video after I sign off from the regular content of the day. All right, now let's turn our attention to the real-time clock. Here we are, and let me just, oh, there's my epic pen. It was hiding. All right, so what we're looking at today, Monday, October 21st, is the Sun at 28 Libra, moving into the 29th anaretic degree of Libra, and starting to square Pluto, who is at the 29th anaretic degree of Capricorn. The word anaretic is a little terrifying. It means something like the killing degree. This is maybe an exaggeration, but it does mean that one of the ways ancient astrologers looked at signs was in terms of an arc of development that happens as planets move through a sign. The early and middle degrees of the sign work sort of like the process of creation and maintenance, creating things and then maintaining them. And the end of a sign tends toward entropy or destruction or things falling apart. You could also look at it as the last degrees of a sign were all the bound rulers of the last degrees of the signs were typically Mars or Saturn, the malefics. So they tend to be, the culminating degrees of signs tend to be a little bit more intense and confrontational or confining and somewhat challenging. That doesn't mean they're bad. It's just a description of what experiences tend to look like and feel like to us when we go through them, and the planets represent things at those last critical degrees. So a Sun square Pluto dynamic has its own archetypal meaning, but we're sort of amplifying its meaning right now at the start of this week because the square is happening at those final degrees. Not only that, but the Sun in the sign of Libra is in the sign of its fall. And this has to do with the literal falling of light that occurs in the solar year as the sun's arc in the sky is falling down and entering the metaphorical underworld of the solar year, where from Libra through Pisces, there will be more darkness than light in a 24-hour day. So the autumn equinox is associated with the harvest, the fall season, the falling of the light, and the entry of the sun into the solar underworld for the year. Now, that's all symbolic, oriented from the northern hemisphere, and it's not meant to be taken literally, but symbolically. With that being said, the sun in Libra is in its fall because the sun is the planet of light. And this is the time of year that ushers in darkness. And so the move into this space is not really good or bad, but there is a kind of archetypal tension that's present when the sun goes into the sign of Libra. In the sign of Libra, we have the scales, or the balance, which is the place of the harvest, reaping what's been sown, judging or evaluating what's been done, judging whether you are stylish or whether you're in fashion or not, whether you're beautiful or ugly. There are many levels at which the Libran balance or the Libran equations operate. They can operate in very vain, superficial, materialistic ways, like, are you popular or not? They can also work in ways that have to do with subtler and deeper spiritual or moral judgments or evaluations. Am I good? Am I pure? Am I in right relationship with the world or with other people? And that deeper sense of that we live in a moral or that we live in a universe that features forms of justice that are natural. We don't always understand them, and certainly by our everyday reflection and our everyday reflections and our everyday judgments and evaluations, things can look like they're really unfair in the world. But Libra asks us to consider that on the cosmic level, there is always a balancing that is occurring, and that we have to somehow trust this blindly. Although if we pay attention at a deeper level to our own lives and the working of the balance in our own lives, we will come to see something like the hand of fate and justice or karma at work. And so we can get some glimpses of it that help us to deepen our trust that there is a larger order that's at work in the universe or the cosmos. But it's not easy to trust, and it's not easy to see or understand, which is part of the meaning of the sun being in its fall, going into the realm of darkness. Well, that's also Hades' realm, the realm of darkness, the realm of the soul's, the descent of the soul into the underworld upon death, where it is judged and evaluated. And it is judged and evaluated in a world that is upside down and inside out compared to our upper world. Remember that Zeus and Hades are brothers, and Zeus's overworld, the sunny daylit world that we're all used to, our understanding of justice, our understanding of order is very rational and clear, like the light of the sun. When it's working, we feel that it's sensible and intelligent. But Hades, as the natural contrary and ruler of the underworld, which is often described as a place that's literally upside down compared to the day world, where the spirits walk on the ceiling, so to speak, that this underworld is a place that is also it's connected. It's not disconnected from the process of order and justice, and yet it is a realm where there is more chaos, and it's harder to see and understand. And there was always some felt sense, and this is not just in the ancient, Greek philosophy or the Greek pantheon. This is all over the world. The traditions have always recognized that there is a very unconscious, dimly lit, and somewhat inaccessible space in which things are being worked out karmically, that the order and balance of the universe is taking place not only in ways that are very visible and obvious, like steal something and get in trouble, or cheat and you cheat on the test and you get caught and you have to retake the exam, or worse, you fail the class. Those are very sensible, obvious instances of morality and immorality, or justice. But the Hades version of justice is not. It doesn't always make sense to us. There are ways in which sometimes something like fate is at work in our lives, and on the surface it looks really chaotic and even destructive, and yet there's something in us that knows, that has this somewhat ominous felt sense, an instinctual or intuitive understanding that something is happening to us that's not pleasant, but it's also for us, in the sense that things are being purified or shifted. Karmic justice is at play or at work, but we don't fully grasp the details, you know? So that deeper and darker sense of justice and karma that is harder to understand or see or comprehend, that can be destructive and chaotic, but is still a part of the overall balance and flow of karmic, the karmic equilibrium of the universe, that is very much at play in this square, both through the sun in Libra and through Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. And so there are 5 things that came to my mind when thinking about this square that we're looking at here to start the week. It'll be present tomorrow and today. Starts fading by Wednesday as the sun moves into Scorpio, and then the whole sign square turns into a whole sign sextile. So we're looking at a different configuration by about the middle of the week. But the first couple days here of the week are very much influenced by the Sun-Pluto square. So what are the themes to watch for? I have 5 for you. And just in addition to this kind of overall picture that I'm painting that has to do with the sort of subterranean and dimly lit and more mysterious workings of karma and fate and justice and balance that are at play right now. Just kind of like have your antenna up for the presence of the scales of karmic justice to be balancing, but in ways that are a little Plutonian and darker and harder to understand, or can sometimes appear chaotic or destructive or difficult, but are also transformative and probably purifying. All right, so number 1, transitions of power. Anytime the sun squares Pluto, you have the potential for transitions of power in a workplace, or transitions of power in your own life. I'm going from more power to less, or less to more. You can also have transitions within yourself. I'm feeling empowered where I was feeling disempowered. So transitions around the amount of power, or what the power looks like, or how it's wielded, are quite common for the sun square Pluto, all the more when these planets are at anaretic degrees, which could result in the feeling of a process culminating and completing or finalizing something that also has something to do with the balance or distribution of power, or how it's used or wielded, or how much of it exists somewhere. So watch for that. Number 2 would be a shift in purpose. The sun is often associated throughout the whole history of astrology with what we are ambitious about. What are our desires? What are our guiding motivations? When the sun squares Pluto, there can be a way in which our ambitions and desires and motivations go through a change. So just shifts in focus and direction and ambition are quite common when the sun squares Pluto, even if they're minor. A slight shift in what we are trying to do or accomplish, a slight shift in intention or purpose, even slightly, would be in line with this symbolism. Of course, it hits a lot more powerfully if you have planets in late degrees of cardinal signs in your chart, for example. Now, number 3 would be the illumination of dark or unconscious material. One of the things that's pretty interesting about Sun square Pluto dynamics is, well, the sun represents the illumination and clarity of the higher mind and intelligence. It is associated with the light and wisdom of philosophers and sages, the sun is. And so squaring Pluto, the ruler of subterranean material that's harder to see or understand, or that's more mysterious or unconscious, the sun square Pluto can be about illuminating dark material. Dark doesn't mean evil or bad. It can just mean hidden or not understood entirely. Or it can mean that somehow there'll be the illumination of something, like a corruption that's exposed or something like that. Just depends on how we're looking at what the sun is shedding light on. Now, number 4 would be the darkening of solar figures. The darkening of solar figures can be about the corruption of fathers or leaders, or scandal involving solar figures of any kind. Usually that means leaders or fathers, but anyone who's a solar figure, someone very famous, for example, could be a solar figure. the death of solar figures, the transition of power from one solar figure to another, the darkening or even the death of certain solar figures. So just watch for that. There can also be that the darkening of a solar figure has to do with those transitions of power that we were talking about earlier. The darkening of solar figure can also be about starting to understand the influence left by a father or a grandfather or a line of people that have been parents, or usually fathers, but paternal karma and understanding the dark elements of a father figure. It's Pluto square, Sun square Pluto. I swear to God, I could set my clock to it that I will have some realizations about how I could get better as a dad. And they're not always like revelation that there's some kind of, oftentimes it's just stuff that I don't see, stuff that I'm not as conscious about within the realm of being a dad. It's a very Sun square Pluto kind of dynamic. So Sun square Pluto can bring about shifts within the consciousness of solar figures, and it can also bring out a darkness in solar figures, or it can literally darken solar figures, as in the death of solar figures. So be creative with how you see a solar figure. And then number 5 would be judgments and evaluations. One of the great faculties of the sun is that the sun is intelligent. When you're standing out in the light of the sun, you can see very clearly the difference between things because the sun illuminates distinctions and differences. If you're in the light of the moon at night, everything swims together and you're looking at a coiled up rope and you might think it's a snake, but it's actually a rope, and you can't see so clearly because the shadow and light swims together in the nocturnal space, which is also its allure and its romanticism and its poetry and its spirituality. That quality of light is beautiful. But when it comes to clearly distinguishing between, let's say, something like right and wrong, or this is not that, I am this and I am not that, that sense of clear distinctions and judgments and evaluations between things is not only Libran, but is also very solar. And so when the sun is in Libra, we have one of the qualities of that placement is that sometimes you have people who are very good evaluators of things. Now, sometimes like the ego gets involved or whatever, there, especially with Pluto, there could be hidden motivations in the way we're making decisions or evaluating things, or questions about being judgmental or superficial in the way we're judging or evaluating things could come up. But otherwise, I would say that this is also a moment where we can judge and evaluate something and come to some kind of conclusion. Very clearly now I am seeing something I couldn't see and being able to make clear distinctions, and with illuminated intelligence, make a tough judgment or make a tough choice. These are the things that I see quite regularly coming up around Sun-Pluto dynamics, but these are just a few. As always, I try to give you some different ways you could turn the jewel and catch the light from different angles off from the archetypal jewel. And hopefully one of these is relevant for you this week. Note again that this is today and tomorrow, perfecting tomorrow, that we have this square. You'll probably be able to, if you turn on the news, you could probably find glimpses of the expression of this archetype in the news as well, especially that we're in election season here in the US. I anticipate that some of these transits will coincide with, I don't know, October surprises, whatever. It's a dramatic month in US politics, typically right before the election. So we'll see. But anyway, on that note, some of you had asked if I was going to comment on the election from an astrological standpoint. I've decided no, I'm not going to do it. I've done so in the past and just decided that it's something I'm going to keep for my own private learning. So I look at things. It's not that I don't, but I'm going to keep those thoughts and observations private and to myself. I was invited to do something on Lori Lothian's channel and thought about doing it because, that's a space that's dedicated to those kinds of topics, and she is more interested in covering those kinds of topics, like mundane astrology and so forth. I thought about doing it, but I decided at the end of the day that it's better for me to kind of stay in my lane with the kind of astrology that I cover, and let other astrologers out there who have more of an inclination or calling to speak to those things do so. But I will be studying the charts and learning from this, as I always do, especially in my horary class. We look at some of those kinds of things in horary. But anyway, that's it. So for those of you who are asking, we'll just leave that to some of the other astrologers out there who do fine work. And I'll be focusing, sometimes when things pop up in the news that are very dramatic, um, uh, around stuff like this, I might comment offhand on, oh, here's this aspect, showing itself or something like that. But for the most part, as you guys know who watch my channel, I don't typically cover mundane events. Anyway, on that note, I hope that you're having a great start to your week. And after I sign off just now, there's going to be a informational video about the upcoming program. Don't forget, need-based tuition is there for you. If you could use it to take the program and make it more feasible for you, please do take advantage of that. Otherwise, stick around to hear more about the upcoming program, and I hope to see some of you in classes soon. Bye, everyone. Hey, everyone. I'm glad that you're sticking around to hear more about the Year 1 program that's coming up. The program starts on November 16th of this fall, and I am here today to tell you all that the program includes and why I think you really like it if you're thinking about studying astrology. So, a few practical details about the course as well. The class begins November 16th, as I mentioned, but it takes place on Saturdays from 12 to about 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's 11 to 2 Central, and typically classes are about 2 hours long. Sometimes they run over with Q&A and discussion, but you can always plan for about 2 hours and you won't miss any of the actual lecture content for the day. You may have to duck out a little early if Q&A or discussion is extending. Sometimes it does, which is why we say between 2 and 3 hours, but typically it's around 2. All of the classes are recorded, so if you can't attend live, you are more than welcome to watch the recordings at your own pace and on your own time. You have lifetime access to the recordings, and everything is housed on a student website. I want to actually give you a just a little preview of what that student website looks like. So I am going to open up my own version of Thinkific, which is the platform that we use. So here's are some of my courses. These are all the Nightlight courses I teach. You can see on the page. But I'm going to tune into, let's go to Nightlight 28, which is the section that began in June of 2024. So here you're going to see that we have orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar. Everything that you need to know how to access the course is there, and you'll have a version of this in your own panel that you get set up with when you enroll. And then our lessons are laid out. So lesson 1, we have the video, the audio, the slides, the transcript. We have the Q&A box transcript so you can see what people were saying in the chat box during class. We have flashcards. We have a workbook. We have planet and sign glyph flashcards. We have bonus material, videos that we like from YouTube that we link you to. Say, check this video out, check that video out. They go along with some of the things we talked about in class. So every lesson has material for you to go as far as you want with, but the main thing is the video, audio, slides, transcript, etc. are all listed there so that you can download and watch it on your own time if you can't attend live. Again, the live classes do happen on Saturdays for this cohort, starting November 16th. That is our first day of class. And then going forward, it always meets on Saturdays, and we give you the class schedule to map out. And the breaks that we have, the study sessions that we have, everything's mapped out on the class calendar for you. So those are just a few practical details that, just to kind of start us off with. So I'm going to take you over to the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. And I'm going to share with you some information about the program and sort of walk you through what it includes and what you can expect. So it is an almost year-long program. We typically finish between 10 and 11 months out of the year. It can depend a little bit on some of my teaching and scheduling, because sometimes I teach at conferences and it may delay some of our modules by a week or something like that. But it's typically around 10 to 11 months that the program lasts. So we call it our first year program. At Nightlight, we have a program for absolute beginners. You may want to check that out if you are like brand spanking new. That would be 8 to 10 hours of content that's really meant to set you up for the first year course. We sort of assume that if you're coming into the first year program, you already know a little bit about astrology. For example, you have some familiarity with the signs, planets, and houses. Maybe you know what aspects are, but you want to learn more about what they are. But if you are really at the very total entry level space, then try Astrology for Beginners. And when you take that, you could do that right away and then join the first year course in November, and you'd be perfectly set up for it. But anyhow, in this program, over the course of about a year, we work through 30 lessons that I lead. And those lessons are all 2 to 3 hours each, including lecture, a little break, and a Q&A portion where we open up for people to come on mic and camera and ask questions and have an interactive discussion about the material for the day. The program is broken into modules that cover a variety of topics in ancient Hellenistic astrology. That is the earliest era of horoscopic astrology. And so, if you don't know a lot about the different schools of astrology, Hellenistic astrology is going to be the kind of astrology that you see a lot of astrologers practicing nowadays. It's become more popular in the last 30 years or so. And that is due to the fact that a lot of ancient texts with some of the original techniques of horoscopic astrologers were recently translated into the English language, and it's created this renaissance in terms of the use of ancient approaches to astrology. I have a background in modern psychological, archetypal, and evolutionary astrology, and so of course I bring those things to the table, but the course is primarily focused on the excavation of ancient techniques and the spiritual philosophy that ancient astrologers also espoused. The closest thing that I can tell you to what that looks like is ask this question: do you resonate with the philosophy that you hear me take on my YouTube channel? If so, then you're going to love this course in terms of its philosophical and spiritual approach, because the spiritual approach to astrology that I teach is really at the heart of the program. And that's a big part of my life. I approach astrology from a spiritual standpoint. It doesn't belong to one religion or one particular school of thought, but you will hear me talking about things like the soul, the belief in the transmigration of the soul. You'll hear me talk about the need to be soul-centered in our client approach to counseling in astrology. You'll hear me have an appreciation for psychological dimensions of astrology, but also ancient astrology is really very, very good at developing your predictive capacity. We talk about what kinds of predictions are appropriate, how to make appropriate predictions, how to be the right kind of astrologer for our clients without inducing any fear. So there's a lot of care that goes into the development of this craft. But ancient astrology is really amazing when it comes to honing your predictive abilities. And then what you'll find is in this program, there's also a pretty significant emphasis on the psychological dimensions and client care. Anyhow, we go into the roots of ancient Hellenistic astrology and its techniques in this program, and the 30 classes are broken into modules. We work through the history and philosophy. We work through planets, houses, signs, aspects, essential and accidental dignities. And then we get into approaches to the delineation of natal charts. And then at the end of the program, almost a third of the program is dedicated to live client readings, where you're going to see me meet with a person and apply what we've been studying for an hour-long reading. We take a break, we come back, and then we workshop. How did I do that? Why did I make these choices? How did I handle this or that came up in the reading? And it becomes easily the favorite part for most students of the entire program, because by that point, you've got so much theory that you're really ready to see it put into action. We alternate those live client practice sessions with hands-on practice, where students get to bring chart questions into class that we work on. And that's also something that most people really love. A lot of people will look at the curriculum and say, well, I already know planets, houses, and signs and aspects and dignities. But not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology, because the approach that ancient astrologers had to these topics is vastly different from the approach that modern astrologers take. So you will be, in a sense, relearning basic things in a brand new way. And I think a much more enriching, deep, and philosophically clear way. It's really nice to know the why behind things. This program and Hellenistic astrology in general is very good at helping you understand the why behind everything that we do. Also, it's really important to participate when you study astrology in a living lineage. So one of the reasons I don't let people jump ahead to my second or third year programs is because I want you to be entrained to a lineage, a particular way of doing things that comes from an astrologer who has a very living, busy, active practice and who has had teachers themselves. I think that's important for astrological learning. That's the model that my own learning take, and so that's what I really want students to take away from my programs. Anyhow, so all of that aside, the second year program focuses After we build our understanding of the basic delineation techniques of birth charts, in year 2, we move into timing techniques, which is all about when the karma of a birth chart is going to be active and expressing itself throughout the course of a lifetime. That's year 2. Year 3 focuses on the development of counseling skills at a much deeper level. And then we also have a 1-year horary program, which is about the development of a very specific predictive technique that can be a really amazing tool to add to your kit. That is 4 years worth of training programs that we have. However, I want to mention that many people take our classes just for the sake, purely for the sake of their own personal growth. Taking these programs is very much like being taught how to utilize a technology that for yourself will be deeply useful for the rest of your life, and maybe for close friends or family members around you. Many people come through our programs taking that benefit away and will study through all 4 years of our programs with no intention of being professional. This is their hobby. This is a spiritual tool that will have it will pay dividends over a long period of time. However, many people without the intention to practice come into our courses and discover that they're actually good at it and may end up reading for other people part-time. And then there are students who are deeply, intensely motivated to practice for other people. And it is not that our programs really make those people successful. Our programs contribute to your development, but it really is that some people have a calling to practice professionally. And these programs are designed to give you all the tools you need to develop that confidence and to develop a really coherent set of tools and to entrain yourself to a lineage, which you can also develop your own unique style out of. So those are some of the kinds of people that take our programs, you might say. So the 30 classes on the year are then broken into modules. And in between modules, we have 2 course directors who are present in all of the classes, and they lead breakout tutoring sessions where you can come in and review or ask questions about the module that we've just completed, which is usually anywhere between 2 and 3 classes each. So those breakout study sessions led by our tutors are outside of the 30 classes and very useful. A lot of people like to attend those because they also offer opportunity for community and just lively conversation. We also have 12 online webinar classes led by guest teachers that we host throughout the year. Those are free, and if you can't make them live, they're all uploaded into your student folder. You also have an interactive group forum discussion staffed with tutors who typically respond to questions that you have about the material within 24 hours. So if you can't attend a tutoring session or you just have a random question on a Tuesday night, you can pop it in there and you'll get an answer. We also have a ton of bonus material, optional quizzes, flashcards, tons of supplemental material that is there to help people go as deeply as they want. We have a reading list that is expansive. And that reading list, we don't expect anyone to accomplish. It's more so a resource that we give you saying, here, if you want to know all the things I've read, if you want to know all the things that I love, if you want to know all the things I recommend, here's a master list of everything for each lesson. You could go, PhD level if you wanted to and read thousands and thousands of pages, or you might find that there's just one extra book that looks really interesting and you want to pick it up. But we pride ourselves on making sure you have a ton of resources. You have lifetime access to all the class recordings. You can email our staff or me throughout the year with questions, and my staff will also defer to me in the case that they don't know the answer to a question. So that is what the program includes. It starts November 16th. If you would like to join, at the bottom between now and October 15th, our early bird payments are available. So that saves you some money off the cost of the course. There is a 12-month installment plan that is cheaper than our normal plan, a one-time payment that's significantly cheaper than our normal one-time payment. So you get these little sales that we do until October 15th. We also have need-based tuition assistance. So if you are someone who would like to take this program, but you are on a fixed or tight budget, we have an application there. Click apply now. Just tell us what you need. We give a range. We say between this dollar amount and this dollar amount, what can you spend? And then we set you up with a plan for that tuition number per month. And that is available for anyone. We ask people to apply early because those spots are limited, but we are really accommodating. We try to make sure that nobody's priced out of a spiritual education. Like, this topic should be very accessible for people because I believe that the divine is speaking through the sky, and like anyone should have access to understanding what it's saying, right? So anyway, That is a bit about the program. I hope that this has been useful for you. If there are any questions you have, you can look over the curriculum content on the page, on the year one page. There's more information there. Check out the FAQ section for more questions. Email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see some of you in class soon. I think this is going to be a really powerful program because it's also starting right as Pluto is moving into Aquarius. And within the year, we're going to have a Uranus-Pluto trine with Uranus in Gemini. These Aries signatures and the connection between Uranus and Pluto make for a very powerful year to advance our understanding of astrology. So it's a great election year for studying. And I hope to see some of you in class soon.